The interesting thing about the world today is that good things are demonized and bad things are glorified. You see this in all spheres of life, whether it's healthy to be obese, and that's promoted on even fitness companies' pages and modeling pages, and they demonize fitness, or whether it's good to be homeless or to use drugs or whatever. Everything bad is promoted nowadays, and everything good is demonized. So it should come as no surprise that Belarus, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, I love America also, but Belarus is a very great country, and it's very demonized. But you should think to yourself, why is that? And you have to put it in context. Look at the world around Belarus. Look at Western Europe. Western Europe is a shithole. It's sad. Europe is the home of the Europeans. It's our ancestral land. Yet it has gone, at least in the cities, to shit. It's not safe. It's not clean. It's not good. On the other hand, you come over into Belarus, and it's safe, it's clean, it's friendly. You don't have to worry that a terrorist is going to blow themselves up right next to you, or drive their car through a market and kill everybody. You don't see camps of homeless people. You don't see people shooting up drugs in the street. It's pretty simple. You don't see bad stuff. You go over to Western Europe, or to many parts of the United States, and it's a cesspool. It's horrible. Now, I haven't been to Australia and Asia or some other parts of the world, but the parts of the world that are typically glorified, Western Europe and the United States, are pretty bad. Now, I love the United States. I was born in the United States. But I'm not an insane person who denies reality. And the reality is that if you go to Los Angeles, for example, it's horrible. It's sad. It's like a dystopian movie about a failed country and future. I don't like saying those words when it relates to the United States because I love the United States. But if you look at Los Angeles and you see just the camps of homeless people, you see the people using drugs on the street, you see crazy people walking around, you go back a couple years and you have people burning down buildings, going into places and shooting everyone inside during those Black Lives Matter protests. Not good, and of course they didn't fully report on all the damages done. Nowadays, if you have a business, someone can just walk into your business, take whatever they want, and walk right out. Police won't do a thing. Not their job. Someone can break into your house. Police won't do a thing, most likely. And you're not allowed to do a thing. Now you go over to the East Coast, places like New York, and they've got people shooting each other, killing each other every day. Now, I haven't been there myself, but I've heard a lot about it, and it's not very safe. It's not very good. It's like a failed state, sadly. Now, Western Europe, they've allowed themselves to be taken over by Muslims who are extremists and not good people. Not that all Muslims are bad, but Western Europe has a problem. They've been infected with terrorism. Now, people think of, I don't know about you, but some people think about terrorism and they think of people attacking the United States, like on 9/11, flying the plane into the Twin Towers. But the United States has much less terrorism than Western Europe. Western Europe, it seems like perhaps they stopped reporting it, but they have terrorist attacks left and right. Whether it's just someone stabbing someone for talking bad about Muhammad, or someone plowing through people in a market, like I said. It's insane. Belarus, on the other hand, has had like one terrorist attack in the last several decades. Nothing happens here. It's safe. It's peaceful. It's clean. So why is it that Belarus is so demonized? Well, it has to do with their great leader, Alexander Lukashenko. And I don't say those words lightly. I think that he is at least one of the greatest, if not the greatest, president in the world at this moment. He has preserved his country and kept it the way it is today. When you see Belarus today and you see how great it is, how clean it is, how peaceful it is, how safe it is, that's because of him. That's not because of the European Union, it's not because of the United States, it's not because of other people. That's because the president of this country cares about his country and keeps it good. Regardless of what other people want, he keeps his country how it should be. He doesn't allow foreign influences to poison his country. He doesn't allow terrorists to take over his country. That's how all countries should be, actually. But for some reason, in the whole world nowadays, there's some desire to see the world go to shit. But Belarus isn't going to shit. Belarus is staying good. It may not be the richest country in the world, but it's one of the best. I say one of the best because I do still love my homeland, the United States. But I'm very grateful to be living in Belarus, and I do consider it my new home, and I hope to be a citizen one day. You don't have to worry that someone's going to attack you or rob you when you're walking down the street. You don't. It's just a good place. Coronavirus, the whole world went insane. Took away people's freedoms. You got places like New Zealand and Australia that went so far as to lock, I think actually it happened in Western Europe as well, but to lock people in their own homes. You would be arrested if you left your home. Now Belarus, the world calls Belarus an evil dictatorship with lack of freedom. Then how come in Belarus you could leave your home freely, go to the gym, go to the store, go to school, live your life? Meanwhile, in free Western Europe, free Australia, free United States, you lost pretty much all your rights. Especially in like Australia and New Zealand, where you had to check in on your telephone and prove that you're at home or else you could be arrested. Here, there were no forced vaccinations, no forced mask wearing. It was simple. If you're afraid of coronavirus, you can get a vaccine. If you're afraid of coronavirus, you can wear a mask. Talk about freedom. That sounds like freedom to me. Since when is freedom lack of choice? Here you have choices. You're free to do what you want, and free to not do what you don't want. It's absolute insanity how places like Belarus have been so demonized by the Western media. If you haven't been here, you might think that it's some evil, tyrannical dictatorship and no one has freedom, and it's just like a prison, and it's horrible. I don't know what you might think. It's sad, because it's a very free, very safe, very clean, very peaceful place. It's really a remarkable thing that this country has been kept as good as it is, considering that most other countries in the world have gone to shit. And that doesn't seem to be unintentional. It actually seems to be by design. And if the world had its way, Belarus would also go to shit. Luckily, the leader of Belarus doesn't care what the world wants. He cares what he wants and what's good for Belarus. It doesn't matter if they say, take in these terrorists, we need to help them. Belarus doesn't have terrorists. Belarus doesn't want terrorists. And Belarus doesn't have terrorist attacks. You don't have to worry about that because it's not like Western Europe. Not committing suicide. such a great country. And its only fault is not giving in to the demands of the West. It's amazing how simple that is. The only thing Belarus could do to have better relations with the rest of the world would be if they literally gave up their sovereignty and let the West control them. There's nothing else they could do. The president of Belarus can't make some changes and the West would suddenly start being nice to Belarus, start doing business with Belarus. No, the West would not accept anything other than complete surrender of the country. And luckily that has not happened. I'm very glad that I can live in Belarus while it's still such a great country. And it's sad that even some people here have been brainwashed by Western media to think that this is a bad place. What I can say to any of them is if you think Belarus is bad, go take a vacation to Paris or to Los Angeles or New York. See what you think then. Perhaps you won't like being in constant danger. Perhaps you won't like the camps of homeless people. Perhaps you won't like trash everywhere, needles and all sorts of stuff. Not that it would affect you on vacation, but perhaps if you lived there, you wouldn't like if you opened a business and people could just come in and take whatever they want. That doesn't happen here. It's called insanity, and insanity has no place in Belarus. I love that the president of Belarus even called the coronavirus a global psychosis or something like that, because that is what the response to coronavirus was. And I don't know how things are in the rest of the world right now with coronavirus, but it's so nice being here, where I can go to the gym, I can go to school, I can do whatever I want freely, and I don't have to wear a mask. I don't need to get a vaccine. Freedom. The irony. Everyone thinks the West is the free place. It's not. Talk about a good place to raise your children. This is it. They're safe. You can feel comfortable knowing that they can walk to school safely. They can go play around outside safely. You don't have to worry. I don't know what else to say because it's really insanity how some people think that this is a bad country or that the president is a bad, evil dictator. He's a great man, and it should certainly be appreciated how he has preserved this great country. Sadly, he can't live forever. The world changes. But hopefully he lives a very long time. Because I would like to raise my children in such a great place. I really don't know what argument someone could have against Belarus. And actually, I do know the one argument some people have, and they tell me. And I never say anything back to them. I just smile. They tell me, and you know how bad it is. You know what happened a couple of years ago. It's like, do I know what happened a couple of years ago? Some people had protests, and they were met by the police. What do you think happens to protests all over the world? You think they just allow them? You think they allow them to walk into the palace of the president? You think they allow them to just roam freely and do whatever they want? No. Protesters are always met by police, no matter what country you're in. It's not because Belarus is an evil dictatorship. It's because in a lawful, organized society, you don't allow massive protests. You just don't. Also, you don't allow people to overthrow the government just because they're angry and form a big mob. It's not how it works. People that think that that was a unique situation should Google footage of protests in any other country of the whole world. They can see that in every country of the whole world, protests are not tolerated. Now, there's a difference between a protest of a few people holding some signs and massive protests with the goal of having new leadership of the country and overthrowing the government. It should come as no shock that that's not allowed. And that's the only one thing that people cite as the reason why this is not a good country. Like I said, I just smile at them because I don't want to argue with them. They're ignorant. They don't know about the world. They don't realize what they've got. They've got one of the greatest, if not the greatest, countries. It may not be the richest, but it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest. I can't say it's the greatest because I still love my America, but they're tied. America and Belarus are tied for the greatest countries. More particularly, Middle America, not the edges, where it's been poisoned. Really is sad what bad media attention Belarus and the president get.